In this episode, I'm interviewing Maria McGuire. She's an American living in Mexico City, and we discuss the logistics or how it is living there and some of the financial issues. This is All-in-One Financial with Bill Holiday. I discuss financial planning issues of investing, taxes, estate planning, insurance, and retirement planning. This is brought to you by AIO Financial, a fee-only fiduciary financial planning firm working with clients all over the U.S. and expats outside of the U.S. AIOfinancial.com. All right, thanks for joining me on this episode. I hope you're doing well at this time. I'm working really hard to lose the weight I gained over the last 2 months from working at home and not exercising as much. I've cut out my morning snack, my afternoon snack, my evening snack, and even my late night snack. So I am a little grumpier than usual. And I so much more enjoy gaining weight, and it's so much more satisfying, and it's quicker than trying to get back. But I hope you're doing well. I'm excited for this interview. I think there's a lot of good information about living abroad and some of the issues that you face there. So let's go to the interview. So you're in Mexico City. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, how are things going with the Corona situation?
There's a lot of economic devastation. A lot of people have died, but for me, I have it pretty good. It's giving me the opportunity to work on my website and creating worksheets and doing tutoring, so it's great for me.
Good, good. Are they pretty strict about locking things down or keeping people from gathering?
It depends on the delegación, the borough. So in Coyoacán, they're pretty strict, but yeah, they're strict, but not as strict as some countries in the world.
So how are you feeling with healthcare there? Do you feel like you have a good situation if something were to happen to you?
Yeah, I think it's a lot better than in the US. It still has its problems, of course, but luckily I've never needed the healthcare system, and buying insurance here is on my to-do list, but it's later on my to-do list. It's kind of near the bottom. I do qualify for the state healthcare because they do have universal healthcare that's government provided and regulated here. They also have private healthcare. So I could use a public hospital if I needed to. Obviously, it does have its problems, and there are people who have really bad experiences with the healthcare here, but the expats that I've listened to have said that their experiences have been phenomenal.
Oh, that's great. And you qualify because what's your status?
Well, I have a Mexican green card, the Residencia Temporal, so I have my temporary residency here.
Is that through a job or just because you're living there?
No, it can be through a job. I did have it through a job in 2006. Yeah, I applied. You start the process in Tucson or at any Mexican consulate around the world. And my income does not come from Mexico. So it's sort of an individual, independent green card.
And what's the advantage of having that? Just length of stay healthcare sounds like a great advantage, but.
Yeah, one advantage is that when I go to the US, I can get traveler's health insurance because if you read the fine print, it says that you have to be a legal resident of another country. Yeah, that's a legal reason why I purchase it. But what I use is World Nomads, and I'd love to hear from other expats if they've had any experience with, well, really any traveler's insurance for going to the US. Obviously, you don't want to be caught uninsured in the US.
Right.
I've never had to use it, so I can't recommend it, but I'd really, really like to know. I've found some online reviews, and there's not that many online reviews for World Nomads, and they're mixed. But what really matters is when people actually have to use it, what their experiences
I
are.
agree. Health insurance in general, you get mixed reviews just based on people's different experiences. I mean, that can be tough to nail down.
Yeah.
So how long have you been there in Mexico City?
In Mexico City, I've been here for almost a year and a half. And I also lived here in 2005 and 2006.
Okay. Oh, you have a pretty good experience there. And how did you pick Mexico City? I know you were in Hermosillo for a little bit before moving down there.
Yeah, I picked Mexico City because, first of all, it has a beautiful climate. It's like hot for 3 days a year and it's cold for 3 days a year. The airport in Mexico City makes it really easy to access. There's like so many direct flights to the US from Mexico City to different cities in the US. The people here are really open-minded and there's a lot of great communities. And obviously, there's a lot to do. I like the infrastructure. You don't have to have a car. I use the subway, the metro, and it's arguably the most bike-friendly city in Mexico, even though it doesn't always feel that bike-friendly sometimes. And I have a cat, so my expat cat, so I couldn't go too far.
Yeah, I heard about bikes, like they closed down some streets on, is it Sunday or Saturday?
Yeah, it's called the Paseo Dominical Muévate en Bici. It's actually such a zoo that I don't use it anymore. It's just so funny because supposedly in Mexico City, cyclists and motorcycles have the right to run red lights as long as you do it safely and in small intersections. But these Sunday rides, like they're always yelling at you to stop at the red lights and stay until it turns green. But as they say, bienvenido a Mexico. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like it's just like Tucson has its ciclovia twice a year, and this is every Sunday. And it was really cool in the beginning, and then I was like, this is just so crowded, and people will ride really, really slowly on the left side. And you're like, how am I supposed to pass you if you're on the left side? I mean, it gets really crowded. And I remember one time they're like, we remind you that this is a family day. This is not a freeway. And I think they're talking to me. But yeah, people go out on their rollerblades and they go jogging and they ride their bikes. So it's pretty cool.
That sounds neat.
And
So
it's really, it's like 55 kilometers or something. It covers a lot of ground.
oh wow. And you're living right down in near the tourist area, like near the center of town?
No, not at all. I don't like tourist areas. I am living in La Escandón, which is sort of on the border of Delegaciones Miguel Hidalgo, Benito Juárez, y Cuauhtémoc. And I'm an unintentional gentrifier. I didn't mean to do it, but that's what accidentally happened.
But you're on the subway route, so you can jump on a subway and get anywhere you want.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Usually you're doing subway and walking and you don't have much
Mhm.
other transportation. I mean, that's nice not having a car for sure. For
Yeah,
expenses
exactly.
and for safety.
Yeah, for safety, for crime, and also for traffic. But then there was a metro collision a few months ago, which was really sad. But yeah, I think cycling is the fastest way to get around in Mexico City.
Huh, interesting. What do you think of as advantages to living there in Mexico versus the US? What's the motivation to be there?
Well, pretty much any healthcare system is better than that in the US. A main thing is the proximity. You know, if you live in Sonora or Chihuahua or Baja California, you can just like drive across the border. So it's so close. And then, or you can, there's a lot of direct flights from Guadalajara and Mexico City. In terms of the culture, I bet you would agree with me. People are just like the most helpful here in the world. They just love being helpful. People are really kind and friendly, really patient, just exceedingly patient. Obviously, the food is the best in the world. People are just so good natured here.
That's great. How are you finding the costs in your budget?
Well, let's see. For transportation, I use Ecobici, which is one of the many bike shares, and that is the equivalent of 20 something dollars a year. I just have to make sure never to ride a bike for longer than 45 minutes. So if a bike ride takes longer than 45 minutes, I have to return it and then wait 2 minutes and take another bike. So it's not a big deal. And the metro.
You don't have your own bike. You just use the public bikes that are there.
Exactly. I did buy a bike in Hermosillo, but here, yeah, I just use the bike share, and which has its upsides and downsides. And there's different bike shares to choose from. And then the metro costs 5 pesos a ride, so that's like less than 25 cents.
Right.
So yeah, transportation costs are really, really low. And then in terms of rent, I have a studio apartment, and it costs in dollars. It's about, let me think, maybe like $500 a month. So
And
rent
you feel like you're in a nice neighborhood or have a nice place, or is it upper end or lower end, or?
It's sort of in the middle. It's nice, but it's not that nice. So it's sort of gentrifying neighborhood. The crime is not the worst and not the best. Yeah. I have a unfurnished traditional apartment lease, so that makes it a lot cheaper than if I were staying in a vacation rental or something.
Sure. So, I mean, it
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
like with rent, transportation, I'm thinking what else? Food and entertainment. I mean, it sounds like you could live on what, 1,000 or a couple thousand a month?
Yeah, you could definitely live on 1,000 a month. And Mexico City is more expensive than most places.
Sure.
Just, like the big city effect. So other places in Mexico would be so much cheaper, but then you'd probably want a car or to use public transportation, which would be a bus. So yeah, rent here is higher than other places in the country in terms of budget. The only things that are expensive are imported products. Yeah,
Like
everything
what?
else is
What would be
cheaper.
imported that you need? Like computers or
Well, in terms of groceries,
oh,
anything that's imported. Sometimes furniture is imported. I think they must have a tariff or something.
gotcha.
Um,
Yeah, I know
just
people near the border cross all the time to buy in the US for a lot of these like Chinese made products. I agree. There's probably some kind of tariff that
mhm.
makes it not as
Yeah,
cheap there. How do
yeah.
you feel safety wise in Mexico? I think like using the metro or just being around, any issues that you've dealt with, or are you feeling pretty similar to US?
I've been lucky. Nothing's ever happened to me, but I do take a lot of precautions. Yeah, the crime is, yeah, disadvantaged. There are safer places, and I know that the state of Yucatan is the safest state where Merida is. You probably know that. Yeah, Mexico City, it's not the best, it's not the worst. There's a lot of armed robberies. The murder rate is relatively low. Yeah, there's a lot of Mexicans who are organizing to make it a more peaceful and safer place, but they're up against a lot.
Yeah, yeah. How do you move money from the US to Mexico? Are you just doing bank transfers, or how have you found the cheapest way to do that?
Well, I opened a bank account in Hermosillo at a HSBC, and then then later here, so I closed that, and then later here I opened another checking account at BBVA, and I talked to Mexicans about the banks here, and the consensus is that the banks in Mexico are absolutely terrible, and my experiences confirm that. I don't want to talk anybody's ear off, but a long, very, very, very long story short, in Hermosillo. So I opened my bank account, and that took way longer than it should have. It was just ridiculous. And so I had money in it, and since it's HSBC, I was like, okay, well, those branches are all over the country, over the world. And I was like, I can just, get my money out when I go to Mexico City. So I go to Mexico City. This bank is on every corner. I go to the branch that was close. Took a really, really long time to get in. And they're like, no, you can't access your money. You have to go back to Hermosillo.
What?
It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I looked on Google Maps and I tried to find the branch with the highest ratings,
Ah,
which is funny because all of the bank branches here have really low ratings, like 2 stars, 3 stars, and Mexicans love to be positive. So if Mexicans give something a bad rating, then you know it's bad. So I found the one with the highest stars, and I, waited and waited and waited, and I ended up having to go back like 10 times. I don't necessarily fault the employees, and of course I was like exceedingly polite, and I used as much humility as I had. And so I had to go back like 10 times and just wait a ridiculous amount of time to get my money back. And I was like, I'm not using this bank anymore. It's not just the employees, it's like the bureaucracy within the banks, I think. And so then I opened up another bank account, BBVA, a Spanish bank, and I tried at another Mexican bank, and they told me I could, but then they never returned my calls or never called me, even though they said they would. So I guess the answer must have been no, even though they said they could. And so at BBVA, he led me to believe that I needed to purchase this life insurance in order to get this bank account. And
wow.
he's like, it's just 3 monthly payments and that's all. And then you got your life insurance. And so I thought that that's all it was. And I thought that it was mandatory, but it turned out that it was not mandatory. And there was a whole year of premiums. So he just completely lied to me. And from what I hear, that's typical.
Terrible.
Yeah, so I lost money from that bank, and I was It's like, okay, I'm not opening another Mexican bank account. I'm so sick of them lying to me and wasting my time. So I just use my Tucson Federal Credit Union account and I use my US based credit card. So every time I use my credit card, I have to pay like a 3% charge for international. Or when I withdraw cash from the ATM a lot and there's, a little bit of a fee and a commission, but I figured out, like I did a lot of experiments and figured out the ATM with the best exchange rate for me. And obviously you want to withdraw as much cash as it lets you because there's a fee from your home bank as well. I do most of my shopping online and have it delivered to my apartment building. I sometimes use PayPal and there's no fee with PayPal usually, but they do charge an exchange rate to change the currency.
Sure. When you're shopping online, is that from local stores or is it like the Mercado Libre or some like Amazon equivalent or?
Yeah, some people use the Mexican Amazon. I've never used it. And I tried Mercado Libre, but I think, it was really frustrating. So I didn't continue with it. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll give it another try another day. Sometimes I use local businesses. Well, often I buy from local businesses and then they have their repartidor. And then I also buy from Costco, Mexico sometimes.
Okay. Oh, great.
But yeah, to answer your question, for me, it's worth it to keep my bank accounts in the US just because Mexican banks they waste my time and my money. I'd rather pay the fees and the exchange rate.
Yeah, no, that sounds super frustrating. That makes sense. Yeah, it's not perfect because you're paying the fee, but it sounds like they're charging fees or wasting your time. I guess for people considering living there or people that are there, anything you learned being in Mexico or Mexico City or Mexico in general that surprised you or any tips for people coming out?
Yeah, I would say to find a fixer or an immigration attorney before you sign a lease on an apartment or buy a home. I guess this is true anywhere. Like, go visit it several times on different days of the week at different times of the day. Listen and smell and look, really try and get a feel for it. I only did that twice and it wasn't enough. Really observe before committing. And the other thing is,
But it wasn't enough because why? Did you find there were roosters next door you didn't know about or what kind of surprise?
that happened in Hermosillo. There was a rooster next door. He would always wake up at 3 a.m. For me personally, I don't like loud noises. Yeah, there's a lot of loud noises that I couldn't have expected that I didn't know about. It's not constant, but it happens enough times in the day that I could have prevented this by visiting it more times before deciding to live here. There's a lot of good things about it too. I get a ton of direct sun in the morning, which is beautiful. And my cat can live here. My expat cat.
No, that's a good tip to check things out thoroughly before you commit to being there a year.
Yeah. And so for people who want to get their green card or become a permanent resident here, I would recommend finding a trustworthy, good immigration attorney or just a fixer, just a professional who knows what they're doing. I did the process all by myself and I did all my homework. I educated myself. I followed all their directions. I was exceedingly polite and I would not do it again. It's not just the bureaucracy, it's like poor organization within, it's called the INM, the Instituto Nacional de Migración. I did everything right and it didn't happen the way it was supposed to. I had to end up paying way more money than it was supposed to be and just wasting so much time waiting and going there and going back and just making so many unnecessary visits to their offices. And one employee will tell you one thing and another employee will tell you something else. And then a third employee will tell you yet another thing that's different. So I've just wasted so much time and money. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I'd say to get a professional. Doesn't matter how good your Spanish is.
Yeah, that makes sense, though. It could be the connections to get things through more than just following the process.
Yeah, it's really sad because that's what Mexicans deal with their government every day.
Right. Actually, another question, how are you connecting with people? Or you have clubs or groups or volunteering or anything to connect there?
Yeah, I had some friends that I kept in touch with from when I lived here the first time. Then just groups that are publicized by bookstores or cultural centers, and they often announce themselves on Facebook. Mexicans use Facebook a lot, Facebook and WhatsApp. And so, yeah, just going to those groups.
There's probably a break from it for a while, but
Exactly, yeah, unfortunately.
no, I think we're all isolated for for a bit. But
Yeah.
no, that sounds great. It sounds like you're doing really well there. Do you have plans to stay there for a long period, or do you expect to, I don't know, go somewhere else, or are you committed there?
No, I'm not committed. I'm committed to my expat cat, and I don't plan on moving as long as he's alive, because moving with a cat is not fun. And also, nobody wants to rent to somebody with a cat.
All right, so you're staying put while you have your cat.
Yeah. Then I'll be a digital nomad after that and move somewhere new every 3 months.
No, that's great. It's really nice catching up with you, and that's a lot of great information. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Well, it was really good to talk to you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, take care.
Thanks, you
Stay
too.
healthy or stay safe there.
You too.
All right,
Take care. Bye.
All right, thank you for listening to our interview. This has been brought to you by AIO Financial. If you need help with any part of your finances, please contact AIO Financial for a free meeting, aiofinancial.com. We do have a free ebook about financial issues that expats or Americans living outside the U.S. experience. It includes taxes, insurance, estate planning, and investing, just some of the issues that may be helpful. You can download it at expatplanners.com/expat ebook. And I'll put a link in the description below. We appreciate any comments, any questions, any suggestions you have for us. You can comment where you find this video blog, just comment there. You can also find contact information for us on our website, aiofinancial.com. And if you do like these videos, please subscribe, leave a rating. That would be great. If you like the podcast, same thing. Please give a rating, give a comment. Really appreciate it. It'll help other people find it. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.